The town of Brembate di Sopra is just 1 hour north of Milan. It is small and quaint, and it's known for being beautiful and peaceful. Until it was shaken to its very core one day in November 2010. A beautiful and talented girl goes missing, and the case would turn out to be one of Italy's biggest and most expensive manhunts in its history. We are your hosts, Helen Allen
and Sherry Ferreira.
This is The Chalk Line.
Good evening, everyone, and the highlights of the news this Thursday.
Okay, so I just want to start this case off with a disclaimer, and I'm so sorry that our ass are bringing you two cases in just a matter of 2 weeks where we cannot pronounce.
Oh my god. Yeah, no.
So
it's not easy.
I'm gonna try to sidestep the ones that I really can't do, because there's no reason for me to do it such injustice.
And you'd get, people would be even madder if you did do it and pronounced it wrong. So you know what?
I don't know how to please people, but I'm gonna have to say some, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And the only languages I do speak are, I'm the only language.
Yeah.
Flexing.
Yeah.
The only 3 languages I speak.
No.
So let's jump right in.
Yeah.
Yara Gambirasio is 13 years old when she goes missing on November 26th, 2010. She left home to go drop off a stereo to her instructor at her local gym. She was a gymnast, and she was very good at gymnastics. It was her life. And she was prepping for her rhythmic gymnastics display, which was going to be that following Sunday.
So much talent.
Yeah.
Just that sentence alone, I'm
yeah.
You better tumble, girl.
She's the cutest. I love this. I live for a gymnastics girl.
Oh.
Because I could never.
Right?
I'm too long to be good at gymnastics. So I was always jealous of the short girls who could work it on the floor.
Oh my god.
Anyway.
I love it. No.
So this was around 5 o'clock that she left. But by 7, her family had still not heard from her, and they knew that she was just going to do that one errand, so they knew that 2 hours is too much. Yeah. By 7:11, her mom calls and gets her voicemail. So this has her really shaken up. They end up calling the police. The dad calls the police at 7:30-ish. The call was put through immediately to the public prosecutor's office, which was in the center of the provincial capital, Bergamo,
Okay.
which this is 11 kilometers east of Brembate di Sopra. The magistrate on duty was Letizia Ruggieri.
So good.
She was a magistrate for almost 15 years, so she knew exactly what to do when she gets this call. And I just want to preface this. Letizia is my hero.
Okay.
And that's it. I just want everyone to know that. Because I'm definitely biased.
Okay.
I don't know. there's something about her that...
No, you're being so vulnerable
she's very
right now.
And I love her.
Okay.
And so don't you say anything about Letizia, because I will get you.
Okay.
Within minutes, she dispatched both state police and military police to Brembate di Sopra. Which I just want to say... If this were in the United States, they'd be like,
wait 24 hours?
Yeah, they'd be like, she's probably at the park. Did you check the park? Is the marriage okay? Because maybe she needed a break from you guys. But, in Italy, they were like, let's find this girl.
I love it.
Yeah, it's refreshing. It's nice. It's nice to do a case where you're like, okay, from the get, no issues.
Everyone
I mean, of course, there's a missing person.
But
beside, the way that they navigate it, it's so far, mwah, chef's kiss.
Love it.
So they go and they interview the gym instructor, and she confirmed that she had seen her earlier that day. She had done some, light training at the gym. Because, like I said, gymnastics was literally Yara's life. So,
she was in and out of the gym.
Right.
Got it.
Her last known contact, they ended up finding out, was a text to her friend Martina it was at 6:44 p.m.
Okay.
And she was basically just saying that she agrees to meet with her at 8 a.m. the following Sunday. So I'm assuming that Martina is like a gymnastics friend, and they were gonna meet before the thing that the rhythmic gymnastics
And I mean,
display.
like, that's only a couple minutes before her mom called her and got worried, so I mean...
No, exactly. So, like, I'm thinking that the window is 15 minutes.
Right.
So, okay. Now they're like, what in the world happened in those 15 minutes? So they kind of interview people that frequent the gym and the people that were there that day. And people ended up saying that they saw two men, possibly seen, having a conversation with Yara standing near a red car. I just want to explain the gym, too, because I think it's important to have a picture of it in your head.
Give me the blueprints. Give me the blueprints.
So, the blueprints are, as if I was able to verbally
Right.
explain. I can't even explain blueprints if I have it right in front of you.
You could be like, look, it's a box.
So, it's a gym.
Yeah.
No, but there's like several entrances and exits, and it's like part of this big complex. It has like a running track, a swimming pool, so many courts, so it's a gigantic place. I mean, nobody knows exactly every single person that was around it and there, but these two men did seem to stand out to people, you know, for what it's worth. So they bring in tracker dogs because they're like, okay, let's find out where she went when she left the gym.
Yeah.
And the dogs actually sensed that she went towards a small hamlet nearby called Mapello, which is not in the direction of her home.
Okay.
So she either went with someone else away from her home, or she was told to go in a direction.
But, I mean, we know that she wasn't in a car, or else the scent would have been cut off.
Exactly. So, or she got into a car. Well, like, what we know is that she went towards Mapello, and that's it.
Okay.
But which is interesting because it isn't towards her home. So what was, you know, what was making her move in that direction?
Yeah. And I mean, she's 13 years old, and she's not exactly, like, out, like, traversing every
Right. It's
single
not like
path.
she's like, well, next I'm going to go to the mall, and then I'm going to go, like, there's just no game plan here except for dropping off the stereo and going home.
And what year was this in?
2010.
2010. Yeah, so.
Yeah. So they ended up checking phone signals, and they were able to tell that her last signal was at Mapello at 6:49 p.m.
Stop.
That is a mere 5 minutes after she sent her last text. So obviously the family is first interviewed here, because when a 13-year-old goes missing, where do you look?
And it is more than likely
Exactly.
someone close to her, so.
So her family was actually very well respected and known in the community. Her dad is this large man with thick glasses, according to The Guardian.
I'm like, are they fat-shaming her father?
I know, like, what in the world? I wanted to definitely say, according to The Guardian, because that is the only, like, description I found of him, and, you know, what the heck?
We'll take that for what it's worth.
I think maybe he has muscles. I don't know.
Ooh.
No, I don't know what they meant. Large man, they wrote. Anyway.
Large man glasses.
He is an architect, and his father had been the local postman, like his mother before him.
Okay.
So, like, yeah, they just know, like, they're known in the community.
Yeah.
Her mother was a school teacher in a nearby town, so that just says to me, love her. I don't know,
Love
teachers. Hell yeah.
Don't get nearly enough credit.
Also, the police did note that their marriage seemed strong. It didn't seem like there were any stressors on the marriage.
Okay.
They had 4 children. Oof. Yara had an older sister, Kiba, who is 15. Nathan and Gioli, who were both under 10 years old. If I'm saying these names wrong, again, I am so sorry.
I mean, even just the way you did, I was like,
trying.
Nathan? You're like,
Gioli.
Nathan?
It's beautiful. Nathan. The police also wiretapped literally so many phones.
Oh, okay.
They traced 15,000 phones that went through Mapello on the day of Yara's disappearance, and you bet your they were combing through conversations.
On their throats, the police
I am telling
were.
You, what in the world are we not doing in Italy? I
mean,
I have
come
such
on.
respect for this investigation so far.
I mean, it's just, like you said, refreshing to see that everyone is doing their job.
Right. And you know who is at the literal top
stop.
doing her most?
Oh.
I love her. Anyway, one wiretapped conversation was of a Moroccan man named Mohammed Fikri. He was heard saying, "Forgive me, God, I didn't kill her." So let's unpack that.
Wait, like just heard someone say that randomly?
That was like one of the conversations he had. I actually don't know, because I don't know if they wiretapped his phone in the sense that like they were listening while he was like working, doing about his stuff, and he was talking to himself, or I don't know if it was a conversation on the phone. I don't really know how Italy's laws work in the sense of like privacy and stuff like that. I don't know if they would be allowed to tap the phone. I don't even know if in 2010 they had that technology, but
he is reported
he
hearing
was
this.
overheard by the police saying, "Forgive me, God, I didn't kill her," which to me is suspicious.
Very suspicious. I mean, I can't even picture like someone saying
if he
that
didn't kill her, then why does he need to be forgiven?
Right.
And I'll tell you another thing. Well, I won't.
Oh.
I will tell you later. I don't want to spoil anything. So he was working in a builder's yard in Mapello, but by the time investigators got onto him, he was in the wind on a boat bound for Tangiers. But on December 4th, Italian investigators, who were doing their job, intercepted the vessel and arrested Fikri. They were like, stop that ship.
God!
I know. It's really good to hear. It's really good to hear all of these things, like, go well. They searched Fikri's van, and they found blood. But, hate to cut this story short, the blood ended up being unrelated. And Ruggieri said that everyone wanted it to be him because he was foreign.
Okay.
So, yes, in a lot of the news articles, he seems very sus, but I think a lot of that is also them building it up because of the fact that he's foreign. So it's difficult to say what is unbiased. But the words he said, "Forgive me, God, I didn't kill her," those are quotes. Moving on, though, because he is no longer really in the police's viewpoint, Italian TV at this point was consumed with the news, and time is starting to pass. Like, it's now winter. It's, the family is beside themselves, and they actually, like, kind of lock themselves away. Like, they lower their shutters, and they even turn down the idea of this, like, torchlight procession to raise awareness, which a lot of people deem weird. But they did have instead the nuns from the Ursuline order who they like taught at Yara's school. They did go and pray with Mara, who is Yara's mother. So, and a mass was held instead of the procession, and the rare statements from the parents, like, people didn't like them because they were saying, like, we want privacy and patience from everybody. But, like, listen, well, like we always say, you cannot judge somebody by how they're grieving. But on top of this, the family being reserved isn't really that alarming because it's sort of the culture of their region.
I was just gonna say, like, them being religious and, like,
yes,
having this sort of relax, that
listen,
seems normal.
So the province of Bergamo is much closer to Switzerland than Naples, and the Bergamaschi are generally more reserved than, like, the people who are more southern.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like how they always say, like, Italians are warm. Like, people from Switzerland are not as well known for being, like, super warm. And so they have more of, like, that type of culture. Quote, "It's in the spirit of mountain people to disdain gossip and not to repeat nonsense," says Piero Bonicelli, the editor of Araberara, a colorful local newspaper. He told that to The Guardian. So I think that kind of sums up why the family is not necessarily grasping at every opportunity to speak in the press.
Yeah, and I mean, thank God that they're getting all this attention that they honestly don't even really need to be out there.
Exactly. The thing is, they know that the police are doing their job. They know, they have faith in the fact that they will get their daughter's answers soon. If not, they at least want privacy.
Yeah.
Because they deserve that. So
I mean, that's what they can protect, it's what they have control over.
Exactly. But, they are obviously desperate to find their daughter still. And so they do end up sharing some photographs of Yara with the press in the days after her disappearance. So that's what everybody kind of has to go on.
Okay.
They're very cute pictures, like one of her taking communion, one of her, like, doing splits in the gym, a studio photo of her in a yellow top, in an Italy football shirt, which, soccer, on the beach. But no one came forward with, like, any useful information at all. Eventually, her parents do make a televised appeal just a few days after Christmas. And the Guardian article says they looked awkward, which I'm like, okay, what in the Because honestly, how dare anybody say, I don't know how I would look if I was, if
like,
my
are you saying
daughter
they should
was
be
missing.
at peace with this? Like, they should look cozy, like their feet should be picked up on the
I'm
like,
sorry that
mantle?
they've never been on TV before, except for when their daughter's missing. How do you think they're gonna look? It's not an audition. It just made me really mad when I read that. Mara was obviously uncomfortable because her daughter is missing, and they, like, make a point to say that she was unintentionally rolling her eyes, and I'm just like, can we just drop it? I hate it when people really, really, really look into how a mother is grieving, because she's grieving. And even if, like, God forbid the mother is the one that did it, I don't think our answers lie in how she's behaving. I think they lie in facts and evidence, and I just don't ever like it when people are like, well, she did it because she was uncomfortable in that press conference talking about her dead daughter. What
I
in
really
the world?
don't think that 2-second eye roll is a full-fledged confession by any means. And I also don't think it'll hold up in a court of law.
What is this, Reddit? I thought I was on the Guardian's website, not Reddit. Oh my god. Anyway, so I just wanted to point that out.
Equally as mad. Let the record show.
By February 26, 2011, exactly 3 months after Yara disappeared, a middle-aged man named Scotty with a drone in the scrubland in a small town 10 kilometers south of Brembate di Sopra spotted some rags on the ground with his drone. And then, shoes. Okay, so when it came to making a podcast, we knew what we wanted to do, but we just didn't really know how to execute it. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from this podcast too, like with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Okay, so do they have, like, any leads at this point?
Well, I mean, like I said, they tapped 15,000 phones, so ultimately they maybe have 15,000 leads.
Okay.
Not really a lot. I mean, a lot to go off of.
Yeah.
But that means it's a lot to comb through, and they don't even know if they are leads. So at this point, no, they don't have any real, like...
concrete leads.
Yeah, nothing super obtainable at this moment. So, there's rags on the ground and shoes. So Scotty calls the police immediately, and they get Ruggeri on the scene. Stat. Immediately. It does end up being a body.
Okay.
The body was in an advanced state of decomposition, but Ruggeri could see the black bomber jacket with its, like, elastic waist, which Yara had been wearing when she left home in November. She also had a Hello Kitty sweatshirt on her. So, like, if that doesn't just say innocence and youth, like, when I read that, I teared up because I loved Hello Kitty when I was 13. And, like, it's just heartbreaking to me, you know what I mean? And, it just breaks my heart. She also had her iPod, house keys, and her SIM card and battery for her cell phone. But the phone itself was missing.
Sus!
So, like, clearly, that's not... She didn't just
just take this out at 13 and be like, I need this battery, I need this SIM card, like,
right. Somebody left those there, and for what? So, the autopsy was conducted by Italy's most famous forensic pathologist, Professor Cristina Cattaneo. She discovered traces of lime in Yara's respiratory passages and the presence of jute, which is a vegetable fiber used to make rope, on her clothing. Yara hadn't been raped, thank God, although her purple bra was unhooked. She had suffered multiple injuries from a sharp weapon which had pierced through her clothing at various points. It seemed like she had just been attacked and abandoned because, according to the autopsy, she died of exposure to the elements.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, but like the wounds didn't like do anything. Like it was just like her being out there, like she was left there alive. Not that you're like an expert. I'm sorry to attack you.
I'm like, okay, according to my forensic knowledge, no, I mean, I guess the wounds were not what was fatal.
And that she just wasn't treated.
Which this is why I was like gonna say something before when the guy said, "Forgive me, God, I didn't kill her."
Ooh.
Because he wounded her.
But she wasn't dead.
But again, he was cleared, but I just thought, whoa, that might be why people are grasping onto it, you know?
Also, you said her body was covered with rags, right?
Yeah, I don't know necessarily if it were rags or if his drone just spotted her clothes and he thought it was rags. It doesn't specify whether they were rags, and it doesn't say that there were rags around her, so I feel like it might just be her clothing and he thought it was rags. Or, honestly, it could be a translation thing.
True. Very true. Okay.
Now, I do want to note, because the autopsy did find presence of lime and jute in her system and on her clothing, they thought that suggested that the killer might be in, like, the building trade because of, you know, those are things that someone who works in the building trade would have on their body. The forensics team actually retrieved 2 DNA samples, one from Yara's phone battery and the other from 2 fingers of her black gloves, but neither matched any samples that the authorities already had on record. 2 months later, in April, the commander of the Scientific Investigations Department in Parma phoned Ruggeri. He was like, I got good news.
Okay.
This murder has a signature. They found male DNA on the underwear of the deceased. It was likely that the murderer had himself been wounded in the struggle because his DNA was left on her knickers.
Okay.
Ruggeri and her team named the murder suspect Ignoto 1, which translates to unknown one.
Okay.
I do want to say, like, if his DNA was on her gloves, she was probably fighting hard.
Yeah.
And I'm almost wondering if he had this, obviously it's devastating to think about, but I'm almost wondering if he had intended to rape her because his DNA was on her underwear, but she maybe fought so hard that he, like, gave up, and that's why he didn't kill her fully. He maybe just ran away from her. He was in the middle of it.
Yeah. Wait, that is so possibly, and I don't have anything else to add, but that's so good.
Thank you. I've been thinking about this for a long time.
Yeah, it's so good.
So, the police were responsible for taking DNA samples from obviously her family members, from friends from school and people at her gym, and just kind of everybody around.
Okay. Now,
the Carabinieri, which is like the military police, they concentrated on the phone records, cross-referencing all of the mobile phones that had moved from Brembate di Sopra to Cignolo di Isola, which that is like where her body was found. They checked every single phone record from November 26, 2010. Each phone user whose number appeared in both cells was literally tracked down personally and asked for a DNA sample. I'm telling you, they did their most.
Okay. Oh,
Do you ever, like, this is why this case is, like, so crazy to me, because I'm like, everything was done perfectly, it seems like. I mean, from where I'm standing, you know?
I know, I'm like, to track down every phone record that day that had that exact movement. I mean, I've never...
And the thing is, I don't know for sure, but I think our Fourth Amendment kind of bars a lot of the searches that maybe the Italian laws don't have,
which I can see that happening a lot, because we do have a lot stricter laws when it comes to...
exactly. Like, the government kind of calls the shots in Italy. More so than here, where, you know, citizens have...
more rights to their technology and
right, exactly. It took geneticists in Parma, Pavia, and Rome a minimum of 6 hours, to transform just a few samples of DNA into something which could be read and compared on a computer screen. The cost in machinery and manpower was gigantic, and the investigation would go on to become one of the most expensive manhunts in Italian history. Yara's funeral took place in May 2011 at her gym where she was last seen alive. Close to the scrubland where Yara's body had been found was this nightclub called Sabi Mobili.
Did they have cameras?
Sherry, I just want to say, this nightclub translates to quicksand.
Ooh.
I know. It's funny, but then eerie.
Yeah.
Because that's a child's worst nightmare. Quicksand? Anyway. So, Ruggieri knew that murderers tend to dump bodies in areas where they're most familiar. You murder someone, you're not like, I'm gonna dump them 7 miles that way where I've never been, because you don't know if someone's gonna go looking there the exact next minute. You're gonna do it somewhere where you think you know it really well and no one's gonna look.
Exactly.
My girl Ruggieri knew that. So, it seemed like a long shot, but in spring of 2011, investigators started taking DNA samples outside the club. Literally, they were outside the club.
No, they were not outside the club. Like, hey,
they were like, you want to go in? Lick this. No, I mean, really, they were doing the most. So, on Fridays and Saturdays, when the club was at its height of busyness, they were like, I'm going to post up right here taking DNA samples.
And I mean, by that point, you can imagine everyone's heard about it. So they're like, yeah.
They're like, so really, it's getting crazy. Yes. So, Sabi Mobili had a reputation for violence. A young man from the Dominican Republic had actually been murdered outside its doors on January 16th, 2011. But the club actually had very helpful records. Anyone who went to the club required a membership card to get in.
The Costco of Italy.
It's literally the Club Costco. And so authorities were like, okay, just give us all of the members that went to this club. And they were able to track down anyone who went there regularly.
Oh,
Sherry girl, it only goes up from here. Let's keep going. I am so in. One of the samples ended up being really similar to Ignoto 1.
Okay.
When I say really similar, it's not the same sample. It's not the DNA of Ignoto 1. But it is so similar that they know it must be a family member. The man who gave the sample was Damiano Garinoni. I don't...
You know what? He's a suspect. We don't...
No, he's not.
Oh.
He's a family member of a suspect. Are you listening?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Damiano, if you're out there, we give Sherry misspoke.
Let the record show Sherry misspoke. Keep going.
Okay. So the man who gave the sample was Damiano Garinoni. He had been in South America on the day of Yara's disappearance. Do you feel like
Oh, well, you didn't say all that, did you, when I was misspeaking?
Well, I did say he was just a family member, okay?
Well,
I get it. You want to find the murderer.
I do, more than anyone else.
But, you know, like I said, they were convinced he was a close relative of the murderer. Now, after looking through the family lineage, they found Aurora Zani, his mother. She had gone to Yara's home twice a week throughout Yara's childhood.
Okay.
She recalled how Yara would always ask her to watch her latest gymnastics moves, and Zani would tell her to be careful not to hurt herself. In 2011, she was no longer working for the family, but she said her relationship with Yara's parents was excellent. But my girl Ruggieri knows better. She followed them.
Good.
She harassed them.
Good.
She tracked their calls.
As
she grilled them.
Fried them. Fry them.
But they ended up being taken out of the equation.
Oh my God. I can't deal with this emotional up and down. I'm really going to need to take a pause. I'm sweating.
I'm so sorry. I'm making you sweat.
I'm so easily excitable.
I love that about you. It's one of your best qualities. You make me feel so much funnier.
Really?
I bet people listen and they're like, Helen didn't even say anything funny, but Sherry is losing it. And I like that about you.
Good.
So a lot of people were mad at Ruggieri for eventually ruling these people out. And people were mad at her for not just that, but also for ruling out that Moroccan man from before. There were a lot of sexist comments, which we are not here for, and one even lawsuit for her, quote, incompetence. But this did not stop my girl. And she did not stop running and grilling people and looking for answers.
I love her.
She was fighting tooth and nail. She said she didn't take a vacation for 4 years because of this. So, I'm sorry, but back off, right?
Take the comments and
she then ended up suing that guy who called her incompetent for libel, and guess who won?
She won.
Guess who always wins at the end of the day?
She won.
My girl.
Everyone else loses.
That's true.
Go home.
The team analyzed everyone, recreated that family tree for months. I'm not kidding.
Ancestry.com has nothing.
Nothing on the Italian task force. I'm not like
put them out of business for a whole 4 years.
And like, oh my God, like the Golden State Killer case, like it doesn't even compare to how hard the Italians worked for this. I'm so grateful for the we caught the Golden State Killer.
Yeah.
You know, you get it.
Yeah, we get it.
I was just trying to make a joke.
That's okay.
Anyway. So what was I saying? Totally forgot.
The family tree for months.
Right. So they looked at dates of birth, places of birth, relationships within the family. The investigators had worked out a complete genealogical, that is not an easy word to say, genealogical tree as far back as 1815, with other branches of the family going back as far as 1716, which Italy is like, been a lot longer around. I am so bad at speaking today. Hello.
Everyone's.
You know what I said to someone at work? Okay, so the FedEx guy came to pick up if anybody had any packages, and I was in the lobby at the time, so he was like, is this good to go? And I was like, yes, it's good to go. And he was like, can I get your name? And I go, Hekran. And we both just stood there, and I was like, it's Helen. So anyway, they traced back as far as 1716. Damiano Gerononi's father had a brother, Giuseppe, who had died in 1999. Investigators visited Giuseppe's widow in September 2011 and found 2 stamps that he had licked, and they were like, yep, those are going to be ours. One in order to validate his driver's license, and another on a postcard he had sent to his family. So investigators scooped that up, and when the DNA results came back, they had another breakthrough. Geneticists were convinced that Giuseppe Gerononi was the father of Ignoto I, the suspected murderer.
Shut the front door.
Here we go.
Don't tell me it was ruled out. I swear.
Keep going.
Okay.
Keep listening. So, he had 2 sons and a daughter. Now, since Ignoto I was a male, investigators concentrated on the sons, Pier Paolo and Diego. I love the name Pier Paolo, by the way.
The drama of Pier Paolo.
No Paolo from Lizzie McGuire. This is Pier Paolo.
I'm gonna shatter the mic. That's the only thing I can think about. Paolo from Lizzie McGuire.
Don't get it twisted. This is Pier Paolo. So, yeah, and Pier Paolo, like his mother, was a Jehovah's Witness. Diego had, unfortunately, a drug problem.
I see ifs, ands, and, like, so many suspicious stuff about both of those.
Yeah.
And it's so
However,
funny.
neither of them provided a perfect match with Ignoto 1. Now they're like, okay, if Ignoto 1 really was the son of the late Giuseppe Giannoni, the only explanation was that somewhere out there, Giuseppe has an illegitimate child. Is this not so nail-biting, exhilarating? People are like, guys, just get on with the story. Stop talking about how much you like it.
No, but you need to go on this journey with me. You guys are here with me, and we're together. So,
here we go.
Yeah.
So, investigators knew that from the early 1960s onwards, for 2 weeks every May, Giuseppe Giannoni used to go to a spa resort called Salis Terme, south of Milan, without his wife.
All right, an affair. Who was it?
Now, divorce wasn't a thing back then, so they thought they must be looking for a woman who was just unfaithful to her husband.
Okay.
Giannoni also was a bus driver, so they interviewed many of his colleagues, and they found this mysterious woman, Esther Arzufi.
Okay.
Now, Esther Arzufi had been a neighbor of Giannoni's in Ponte Selva in the late 1960s. In 1966, when she was 19, she had married Gianni Bossetti from Par, a nearby village. Bossetti was a man whose tough life had kind of turned him that way. He had been orphaned young and suffered from psoriasis, arthrosis, and depression. When Matt listens to this, he's going to be like, I have psoriasis. Not me, Matt. Outing Matt's medical history. Also, Matt listens to this. Okay.
Okay.
So, Arzufi seemed very different. She was like an outgoing, good-looking woman. She wore short skirts, says The Guardian, but like, okay, leave her alone.
Yeah.
She's a woman. But, you know, back then it was frowned upon. And she dyed her hair, which was also like, okay, for what, lady? I know. Like, what is that? Who cares if she dyed her hair? Guess what? I should start, because I have like 5 gray hairs.
No.
No, I actually do. Look.
5? Oh my god.
It's true. Okay, so she got a job at this textile factory a few miles away in Villa Diogna, and she took the bus every day. Yes, she was the mother of Ignoto 1. So Arzufi had left Ponte Selva in 1970, but she had continued her affair with Giannoni into the autumn of 1970, and she gave birth to 2 twins, a boy and a girl. The boy was called Massimo Bossetti. His middle name was Giuseppe, like his biological father. Now, he was a slim boy who, quote, loved to party, and he was nicknamed the Animal by his friends. He is now 42 at the time, and he's a builder. He's married with 3 children and living in Mapello, the hamlet near Yara's hometown, where the last signal of Yara's cell phone had been recorded on November 26th, 2010.
Okay, so he's a party animal, he's a builder, and he lives near her home.
Yes, essentially.
Got it. Okay.
Ruggeri's like, okay, we gotta move fast.
She has not wasted one breath during this
She's like, I need a vacation. It's been 4 years. Let's go. Let's wrangle him up.
But also could easily go for another 4.
No, she's the animal, okay? She is.
Suck it.
She is. She's doing her job. Okay. June 15th, 2014, she set up this fake roadblock breathalyzing drivers. But you bet it was just because she wanted his DNA. Mm-hmm. I love her. When police officers stopped Massimo Bossetti, they pretended the machine hadn't worked the first time so they could get 2 good samples.
If I ever go, you can hit her up on speed dial.
I will call her personally and be like, Ruggeri, I need you on this case.
Please.
His DNA was immediately sent for overnight tests, and the results showed it was an exact match with Ignoto 1.
I mean, this is
Now, they watched Bossetti before arresting him to study his movements and behavior and everything from a distance, because they were like, we're gonna nail this to the ground.
I mean, I can imagine they're like, we want anything, like, further, like, incriminating if he has anything from it. Like,
they find. Well, first of all, on June 16th, Bassetti was arrested and charged with the murder of Yara Gambirasio. And here's what they know. Bassetti had frequently hung out at around Yara's house. He parked his car in Via Donsala, which is behind the gym, and ate at the Toscanazia Pizzeria at the end of her road. He had gone for regular UV showers at the tanning shop nearby. His internet searches were troubling, to say the least. He would, like, search with words that implied a compulsion for pubescent young girls. And more importantly, records suggested that his phone had been present in Brembate di Sopra on the evening of Yara's disappearance, but had been switched off from 5:45 p.m. until the following morning. In 2016, Bassetti was sentenced to life imprisonment. Now, Yara is buried between her two grandparents in a cemetery just across the road from her gym. There's no date on her tombstone, only a signature next to a photograph of her wearing a white Alice band. All around the grave are mementos left by her friends, gym shoes, a metal tulip, rag dolls, plastic angels, and little bracelets. Often, in the early evening, you can see Yara's father, Fulvio, standing there, gazing at the resting place of his parents and his daughter. Thanks for listening. You can catch us on Instagram at The Chalkline Pod,
Twitter at The Chalkline Pod,
and follow along with our YouTube channel. The link is in our Instagram bio.
Tune in next Thursday for another story.